Hello and welcome everybody to the Hobby CNC with Dave show. My guest tonight is Hamilton Dilbeck, and I'll be bringing him on here in just a little bit. And if you haven't heard of him, go check out his YouTube channel. There's links below down in the video description here, and hit it, give him a sub and check him out. He's a cool dude and a funny dude, I noticed as I was watching some of his videos today. So we're going to bring him on here, but first let me bring in my sidekick, Ryan the Wolfman Ballard. How you doing, Ryan? He's muted. He was trying to be stealthy here, so
there we go.
There you go. How you doing, buddy?
It's a professional outfit.
Yeah.
Good deal. Yeah, everything's going pretty good.
Okay. All righty. Well, have you, Ryan, have you heard of Hamilton Dilbeck?
I've been watching some of his videos, and
okay. All right.
I think Hamilton and I would be friends.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, without any further ado, let me bring him on in here. He's just sitting back here in the green room, so let's bring him on in here and meet this young man. How you doing?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
Let me get this. I always like to have my guest be the big shot. So put you right in the spotlight, buddy.
Oh, that's me.
Anyway, how you doing, Hamilton? We first met, I guess, a couple of days ago, technically, doing our little tech check, and found out we don't live too far from each other. Which I was kind of surprised when I saw on your YouTube. I always check out the about section of the YouTube channel and stuff. You know, the places where nobody else goes. Mm-hmm. And I always check into that. And I saw you were from the Cumming, Georgia area. And I'm thinking, wow, that's cool. I used to spend a lot of time up there. But anyway, welcome to the Hobby CNC with Dave show. And let's just kick things off here. And you can give everybody, I know there's probably some folks that know you over there in the chat. But just for the benefit of everybody watching tonight, give us the background of Hamilton.
Oh man, that's a long one.
We got a while.
I grew up in Montgomery, Alabama, and then went to the University of Alabama, Roll Tide. After that, I went on a trip around the world for a year. So I was out of America for an entire year and hit a bunch of countries, and then came back in and across the United States. And then after that was still kind of restless and decided that I didn't want a job, but I wanted to start woodworking. So my father was kind enough to buy me some old tools off Craigslist, and I was in like a little 15 by 15 like literal shed in the woods, trying to cut stuff up and learn and just watch YouTube. And I didn't really have anybody to teach me, so I kind of taught myself off YouTube. And at that point, I didn't have a lot of money, so I would like build things and then deconstruct them and then cut them up differently and build different things with the same wood just to like learn. And that was a ton of fun, and building cutting boards and stuff for friends and family and a few tables here and there. But decided that I wanted to make money. And I started looking around for some jobs, and I had a friend that was working at a local rehabilitation center. And I noticed on Indeed that they were looking for a wood shop manager, and I thought, oh, I could do that. So I kind of shot for the stars. It was a dream job for me, definitely at the time, about everything that lined up with my personality and who I am and the goals in life that I have. So I went and interviewed for that job, and getting jobs at rehabs are surprisingly difficult. It's a very well protected community, and after about 2 months of interviews, they allowed me to go in there. And then 3-ish years spent teaching woodworking to men who had gone through addiction and were in a year-long program that was residential. So I have heard everything under the sun, every single story. If you want to talk more about that, we can definitely get into it because it's been highly impactful in my life. But taught all kinds of stuff. Ran the wood shop. We had a brick and mortar store here in Cumming, Georgia, where we would sell interior decor stuff as well as mainly tables. That's what we mainly focused on. Huge conference room tables for places down in Atlanta, and working for a rehab that kind of sold the furniture itself. So we teach guys how to do that. Some of the guys would end up going into woodworking, others, different jobs. And I recently kind of got to the point where the rehab world burnt me out a little bit. There's a lot of ups and downs in that. And
I would imagine so, yeah.
Yeah, a ton. So I decided to go full-time into woodworking. And my wife and I got married on April 4th, which is coming up for our 2-year anniversary, right when COVID hit. So we had planned our huge wedding, and I had built a wedding venue in my parents' woods. I had built all these, and a ton of friends of mine helped, but we built all these pews and a deck and stuff. And COVID hit and lockdown happened, and me and her were like, no, we still want to get married. So it was us and our parents and the photographer, and my brother happened to be in town as well, and his wife. So we ended up getting married, just like the 10 of us out there, and it was super awesome. And started looking for a house, but I knew that I wanted one with a shop. And if y'all have even remotely heard about the real estate stuff happening over the last 2 years, it's been crazy. So luckily found a house with a huge shop in the backyard, and went full time. And I am kind of taking right now any kind of jobs that I can, but I'm very focused on content for my YouTube channel, as well as creating smaller type of stuff. So the CNC has been very handy for that. And I knew that was going to be a big game changer for me, going from a shop with, around 15 employees at any time that could make anything and do any kind of project, to just working alone and trying to figure out where I need to best spend my time. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay. All right. That was a great job. I learned a lot just in that 5 minutes or so.
When you don't work in a big shop, though, you don't have anybody to blame and throw away all the bottle openers.
Yep. You don't have anybody to blame but yourself.
Oh, that was so painful.
Oh, it was so painful. I'm glad that you felt a little bit of my pain.
Oh.
Yeah, I did as well, because I got something. I'll even confess, I got something sitting out on my CNC right now that I'm not even unclamping it. I'm going to rerun it as is. So I'm not even going to say what it is, because I am shooting video. I'm going to try to. I thought, man, all this time I've been shooting video, and now it didn't really turn out as good as I wanted. But I thought, well, I think I can salvage it if I just leave it and redo it, and the video will still be good. So, because nobody will notice, hey, that's a different piece of wood or something.
Well, if you go back in mine, you'll see I'm wearing like 6 different shirts. Like I just like day after day would make mistakes, and I was like, oh, whatever. Like just walk away from it.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to do that. It's there's been a lot of times, especially with the CNC stuff, when things just, for whatever reason, they just don't work out, and you start making silly mistakes, and it's best to just shut it off. Try to come back and try tomorrow, I think. So anyway, I've been jotting down some notes here, questions I wanted to ask you, and you already answered probably some of them just when you were talking there. But I noticed, like I said, I always go digging back into the about section of YouTube that probably nobody looks at when they're looking at somebody's YouTube channel. But I see you've had a YouTube channel, or you joined YouTube in October of 2013. But as far as and you mentioned, kind of like, well, I call it YouTube University. That's how you learn stuff. You just binge watch videos. But I guess you really didn't take the plunge as far as uploading videos until your first one was February 20th of last year. So just a little over a year. And I have to say you've done really well, because you're already, got almost 3,000 subscribers, I think. So
almost. I'm 1 second. I'm like 115, 112 away. They're pouring in because I put a new video up, but still, it's getting there.
Okay. Did you hear that, folks? He's only 100 or so away. So get over there and
let's make him 99 or so away.
But
we'll get there.
All right. Well, and the other thing I was going to ask is, I said, how long have you, this is kind of the standard questions I ask people. How long have you been woodworking? You already mentioned that a little bit, and how you got your start into woodworking. But let's just get right down to the brass tacks here, since this is a CNC kind of show here. What made you want to add a CNC to your woodworking shop? Because you already were good at making stuff.
So, um, so the CNC was a big decision that I really wanted in the shop at the rehab that I was working at. You get guys that, pardon my French, but we're using heroin like 2 days before, and then being like, "Hey, welcome to the wood shop." Like, it's really difficult to put those people around saws. Like, we had a saw stop and stuff, but there's a lot of stop. So the CNC is one of those things that is like, you teach somebody how to program. There's a lot of really relatable skills based in that can be useful beyond rehab. So I never got the green light for the funding for it. And I constantly was saying, it's really not that expensive. $5,000 gets you something that at least we can use in the shop. So I knew once I left that I wasn't going to be able to hire any employees. It's not like I had a ton of money like squirreled up so that I could, start my own exact shop on the other side. But I knew that I needed to be able to be as productive as possible, but also as repeatable as possible. And the trays and little tiny things, I've already got some great relationships in town with some shops, and that I would sell furniture through, but I really didn't want to do a ton of furniture anymore. I really wanted to get down to smaller stuff. And just knowing that I could create something on a computer and then walk out of the shop, press a few buttons. And if I did it right, the thing that I thought about would pop out. But then I could do that 10, 100 more times, and it would be the exact same every single time. It was massively alluring. And it's such a low price point. Yes, I have like a cost video, and yeah, it's pretty expensive, but like thousands of dollars. But like at a price point where it's extremely achievable for most people, like anybody could go out and buy this and not have a table saw, not have a full cabinet wood shop like I have, and be making relatively the same things. So it was like, I don't know. I don't understand why people don't call it woodworking. Some people who are like purists and everything like that, you're doing the same things. It's just way more repeatable and less human error, unless you're like me and start the human error in the actual programming.
Yeah, I always tell those people to unplug their table saw and hand them a handsaw and go, "Here, if you're a purist, there you go."
Yep. Turn off the lights.
Yeah, but okay. I wanted to ask you too about your shop, because when I look at it in some of the videos I've watched, it looks like it's pretty good size.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about, and it looks like maybe you have like some different sections, like maybe you have a section that you do all your finishing in.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yes. So the guy that I bought the house from, he is a commercial electrician and really enjoyed working on his motorcycle as well as like painting cars and stuff. So the shop is 48 by 36, which is bigger than me and my wife's first house. And when I went in there, I was like, this is all the space I'll ever need. And of course, right when I put my tools in, I wish that it was twice as big. And a corner of it is sectioned off. It's about maybe 12 or 16 by 20. And that is his paint booth that he created, which is essentially just framed in room, and then put vinyl siding on all the walls. And then in the very center of the slab, he cut out a huge like trough. So it's probably 2 foot wide by like, I don't know, 6 or 7 feet long. And that goes down like 3 feet, and then it pipes out through the shop where like he could put a fan and it would suck everything down. So I'm told when you're painting a car, you spray the walls with water, and then you turn on your fan, and any kind of like overspray gets stuck to the water so it doesn't land back on the car, and then it gets sucked under. And he told me all this, and all I could think of was sitting there being like, oh my gosh, I have a huge hole in my spray booth. I'm never going to use that. That's a horrible idea. So now I've got a piece of plywood over it, and any time that I spray stuff, I step on it and it shakes. Oh, it makes me so mad. Stay tuned in a few months when I fill that hole up painstakingly with single bags of concrete.
Wow. Okay, I'll be watching for that one.
Other than that, it's got a huge loft that I eventually hope to turn into multiple CNCs and completely soundproof it and do all that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, it's not in the budget right now. But hopefully later, that'll be something that I get to.
Okay, and getting back to the CNC, what what kind of things did you consider? 'Cause you mentioned you wanted to kind of get away from the heavy furniture stuff and do the smaller stuff that you can sell in shops and stuff. So what kind of considerations went into deciding what kind of CNC to get?
Um, so at first, I saw everybody online. Everybody was getting Avid CNCs. I don't know what kind of deal they have with them, but I mean, like Avid did it right. They put the machines in the hands of the right people, so that individuals like me are sitting there being like, "That's what I need," and it was out of my price range. So I started looking around at hobby CNCs, and I did not want a Shapeoko. I don't know why. I just like every time I heard, and maybe it's not the Shapeoko, maybe it's the other one, but every time I heard about people putting them together, I was like, I just don't want to do that. I'm not that person. I don't want to tinker. I don't want to do that kind of stuff. And when I saw the Onefinity, I was like, oh, that's like 4 parts. That looks like my speed. So that was the main contributor. And then after I started looking at it, then I realized that like, oh, it's, new to the market and like something that was relatively like innovative. And with that, it kind of concreted it, and I went ahead and put my order in. And yeah, that was probably the main reason. Not crapping on anybody else's machines. If y'all have others in there, I've never used one, so I'm sure they're great.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the Onefinity is definitely a very solid looking machine, and I'm always impressed because I've watched a ton of YouTubers. When their Onefinity shows up and they're doing the unboxing and stuff, and they have those things put together in 30 minutes or so because it's just 3 boxes, mainly 3 big parts, and not a lot of assembly like some of those other machines. uh, But okay, and so you already mentioned about hoping to someday have multiple CNCs. So I guess Onefinity, you just fill up your whole shop with those things.
Probably so. Honestly, I'm really not sure. Like calculations that I did, I could get 3 of the Onefinity Journeymans for around the same price as what I would look for the Avid. And a lot of these smaller projects that I do, I mainly focus on like topographical stuff, which is a whole thing in itself. But for how it's cutting, the Avid wouldn't be cutting any faster relatively. Maybe slightly, but not like outrunning it. So when I look at thinking about getting more machines, it would be like having 3 Onefinities, 2 of them just being farms that are like set up with exact jigs for exact products and just throwing the same thing in them every single day. And then one of them more for prototyping, what I currently use mine for. Because half the time I'm really just kind of messing around trying to figure out what's going to be a better product, how I can make it faster. And then the other time is me with, trying to batch stuff out as efficiently as possible.
Okay, and the CNC stuff, like I said, you had yours. What have you had it now? About 6 months or so.
Around there, so 5 or 6, probably.
Okay, and you had, or did you have any CNC experience? Or I mean, you went into this thing kind of brand spanking new, right?
Yes. So when I worked at the last wood shop, I had enough experience where in SketchUp I could show somebody like, hey, this is the shape of a table. I was never that guy that could make it explode or have drawers slip in and out and all kinds of stuff. But like, I could at least be like, this is the shape of your table. This is what the base is going to look like. And that is the only type of, CAD, if you would even call that CAD, that I had. So I knew that the program was going to be by far the biggest barrier to entry for myself. And at the time, Onefinity was taking 3 months to ship. So I knew that I had some time to learn as well.
Okay, and is that what you did? Did you decide on a type of software? And I wanted to ask you what, I think I know, but tell our viewers what software you use for design software.
Yeah, so I went with Carve Code Maker Plus, and for that 3 months, I went a little bit crazy. I'm a slightly obsessive person in some ways. So like I watched hundreds of hours of tutorials on Carveco. I got to the point where like if I couldn't find the answer, I would bug support so much that there's a video on Carveco Maker's YouTube channel. If you go there, it'll be a catch-all tray. And I bugged them so much that they created that video and put it on their YouTube channel because I was like, I don't know how to do this. And it's like one of the more simple things that you could possibly do with the program. Like, and they were laughing and just threw out a video for me. And after that, once I understood how to do something in it, I quickly figured out how to do exactly what I wanted to do with it. And I think it's an extremely versatile program that isn't talked about a lot. I think the majority of users are going to use something like Vectric, but I never even tried that. So I jumped right into Carveco.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the Carveco, isn't that like a subscription deal?
It can be. So you can buy the perpetual license for,
Okay.
I think it's around $1,000. I think Onefinity also has a discount for that on their website. So if you have one Onefinity machine, you can purchase it through that website. And then you can also do a monthly subscription, but I think monthly pretty much will run you like, don't quote me, but like $400 to $600 a year, something like that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we did a show here, I don't know, probably 3, 4, 5 weeks ago now, where we talked about the different software. And so I get them all kind of jumbled. I'm an old time Vectric user and been using that for a long time. So I was kind of out of touch with what else was out there, but we did a show and talked about some of the other ones. And I couldn't ever remember whether it was perpetual license or subscription or a combination of both. Sometimes they have it where you can get one or the other. But let me give a shout out. Let me give a quick shout out here. JR's hitting the super chat thing, I guess is what that is. So thank you very much, JR. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Always good to see you out there in the chat. Let's see now. What was I saying here? Look at my notes. Oh, we were talking about the software. So do you feel, I mean, you've had your machine 6 months and then, from your videos, it looks like as far as the software, you can pretty much make anything you want.
Yes. And that was a big thing that I really wanted was they have like, you can take a picture and automatically create vectors out of it, like just like snap. And that was a huge allure to me so that I could literally draw on a piece of paper what I wanted it to say, take a picture of it on my phone, put it in there, and then bitmap to vector. And all of a sudden I have something that I can V-carve. Like, and that, I'm sure other programs do that as well. But I was just so impressed by that and how easy it is that setting things up was just, I don't know, like, I understand new things are difficult, but if I can get to a place of getting through and figuring out my learning curve and then get to a place where things start getting easy, like I'll stay with Carveco for, as long as I can.
Yeah. And as far as the learning curve, what about with the software of running the machine, your Onefinity?
So I did not watch too many videos going into it. Unfortunately. So I was so focused on the software that like, I figured, yeah, you plug in the machine and it pops up and then it just goes. I didn't know how to save my files, and the fact that like, you don't just save like a file of like, this is a CNC file and you pop it in your CNC and it works, like how your G code has to be specific to controllers. Like all that was just so new to me. Like, and it didn't make any sense. And now of course it's just dumb, but my first carve that I ever did, I think it's in my like Onefinity setup video, like I didn't know where to press play. I didn't know there was a play button. I got to the point where I finally like found my file and I was like, now what do I do? So that was a slight learning curve. But once I got that was fun. I am not even remotely ashamed to say that I have no idea how to set up my home on my Onefinity whatsoever. I use my probe 100% of the time. And I know that everybody here is sitting there being like, what? But like, I just don't. I unfortunately sometimes get stuck in the easy things to me, But eventually for my batching, I'm going to have to figure that out. And once I do, that's going to take 2 minutes of Googling, watching one YouTube video, and then being like, oh, that was easy. But I just like, when something works, I just do it that way until later. I'm like, oh, I actually have to. Like on the video that you watched today, I could have made all those little ring bowls if I would have set up a home on my Infinity. Because I used the touch probe, I guess I crooked it over a little bit or something wasn't completely square, and that made it so that bowl bit wasn't completely centered in each of them. And that's why I was so mad at myself, is because, if I would have taken the time to watch a 2-minute YouTube video, set that up, then I could have had 146 little ring dishes that I could have put in a shop here locally and sold those each for $8 and, done fine.
You have no idea how much pain I felt watching that part of the video, because I kept thinking, okay, he's got a plan. He's gonna just make something else out of those. This should work fine. And then when I saw it off center, I'm like, oh man, that hurts.
Yep.
That really hurts.
Yep.
So yeah, I feel your pain, but yeah, I think learning it. But you're not the first person that I have seen admit that and I saw a guy on another podcast, and he had a really fancy machine, and he was running some beautiful stuff with it. But he said the same thing. He used his probe every time. So I hadn't figured out how to home it yet, and I'm thinking, man, this guy's making some beautiful stuff, but he doesn't even know what he's doing yet. So. But I'm just saying, when you learn how to home, that will open up a lot of doors and a lot of better ways of doing the kind of stuff you want to do. Which, if I can help you with any of that, let me know.
I know right now you're like, please just give me a call. I'll tell you in 30 seconds, and
we could do and I've done this before with folks. We can do the StreamYard thing, kind of like we did the tech check the other day. If you have any kind of even if you have crummy internet in your shop,
I would have to
use your phone for a hotspot or something. We could do it, and or I could even come up there. Since you're in the neighborhood.
Hey, we can make a video together. That'd be fun. Guy who actually knows what he's doing versus guy who doesn't know what he's doing.
That would be fun. We'll have to think about that. But
I was thinking about in the bottle opener video, is that you could have actually done the round over while they were still there on the table of the CNC. If you would have had a round over bit in there, you could have done that too.
So I did think about that, but I don't use tabs because I don't know how to use tabs. I don't use tabs because I think that they're, for lack of better words, dumb. So like when I see a CNC, and I get it for bigger pieces and stuff, 100%. But when I see like my CNC, I want it to do as much work as possible. Mm-hmm. So I get what you're saying about the roundovers, but I looked into it. I even looked at bits for it, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go in, I'm going to round over each one of these. Like I'm going to have to profile down like 80%, then do the round over, and then profile again. That's going to be a bit switch. And then how am I going to flip all these over to do it all over again? So at that point, I was like, I'm already going to have to do it 102 times. What's 204 times? Like that clip of me, the reason I left it so long in the video is because it took me like 48 minutes of sitting there. I was listening to an audiobook the whole time, and it was like chapter 3, and I was like, what? Horrible.
Okay. All right. Well, of the projects, or I guess I won't just say projects, because a lot of times your favorite thing that you make with your CNC isn't necessarily a project. It could be a template or a jig or fixture or something like that. So what is your favorite thing that you've made with your CNC?
So I would say I've got a video up, and it's there was a woodworking contest for walrus oil, and I made a piece in that I was incredibly proud of. The way that I'm doing a lot of the topographical work is that I'm essentially like creating mountains in Carveco. And then instead of doing the full, what is it called, relief itself and going through the roughing and then the finishing pass, I'm only doing the roughing pass. So once I figured out how to, it's super janky. I'm kind of like, even the people at Carveco were like, it's not meant to do this, but it'll work. And I was like, tight, that's all I need to hear. And once I like figured out how to do the walrus in the center, essentially like the material or the bed, I've like created a bunch of like reliefs in it, like by hand individually. And then I'm taking it out almost to the profile. So like all that's like very artistic. That wasn't like a file or something that I found like and because of that, I played around and finally created the file after like 2 hours of sitting there and doing it. And that was something that I was very proud of, that I know like, hey, that's something that the majority of people at my skill level are not going to be able to do. And I knew that that was like, okay, hopefully in a year I can look back at this and be like, oh, that was child's play to what I'm currently doing now. So like you go on Etsy and you see all these people like creating American flags and all this stuff. And you type in, you know, CNC American flag, half of them are going to be just like the exact same thing. And then half of them are going to be files that are exact same thing. So I figure if I can do that walrus that is very similar, I could make a American flag, but with the topographical stuff around it, just like with the walrus, and how that would be a very unique and very different product. And of course, somebody's going to see it and figure out how to do it and copy it. That's how it works, right? But like that was something that I was very proud of, that I'm going to be diving into a little bit deeper later as well.
Is that the one you're talking about right there?
So yeah, that's the actual walrus. I don't know if I have on my Instagram like the picture of it. Yeah, there it is.
I was trying to. Let's see. I don't know. Yeah, I don't guess I can get any closer than this. Yeah, it won't let me get any closer. But that's pretty cool.
Thanks. And it's one of those things where like, when people are in CNCs, and especially if they use the same program as you, they're like, oh, wow, that's interesting. But like the people that you talk to on a daily basis, your friends and family are all like, oh, that's what the CNC did. And you're like, yep, I did. You know, it's like, I don't know. It was something that I was very proud of that I've got to figure out a little bit more on, but it was a good start.
I like the style of the topographical map that you did. Like I was waiting for you to go back and do like the finishing pass and do it. And I was like, he's not doing it. It's kind of like an 8-bit topographical map. That looks pretty awesome. I dig it. And so, yeah, I like that. And then like the way that you have some stuff on your Etsy shop too. The ring holders and such that were done that same way. So I was like, wow, that's a really good use of the CNC, because you're able to take into account the dropping down of the bit for the different levels and such like that. And I was like, yeah, that's a pretty smart way to do it. So good job.
Thanks. And then I have like people that are way smarter than me on my YouTube channel, and they're commenting. They're like, you could, do that 5 times faster if you would just rough out the area first. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, but that is the roughing pass. And my step down is what is determining like the level of intricacy of the topographical features. So step down is 0.05 inches, and I'm running it at 300 inches per minute because that's cutting literally nothing. So it's just sitting there going as fast as it freaking can, but it can only go as fast as it can.
All right. Very cool. Let me give a big shout out here to Alan. Thank you, Alan. I appreciate the super chat. Says, thanks, Dave and Ryan, for a great show tonight. Great to learn more about you. And yep, I am now a subscriber. Yeah. All right. So you got
off of this. Thanks, guys.
Got another one. All right. There's a question. I don't want to go too long. Have we got any questions for Hamilton lined up over there?
Yeah, sorry guys, I've just been chatting.
There was
okay. Well, let me make sure. If anybody has a question for Hamilton, just if you would put a Q in front of it, make it easy for us to find them, and we will hit him up with those. But one question I have, and I just saw this. I don't know, 30 minutes before I got on here to go live, is I was watching your very first video. You remember your very first video?
So that's funny because my first video on this channel, yes.
Okay. Okay, so you were making some tables and stuff like that. But I got a question. I saw it twice. I saw it once. I don't remember what the timestamp was, but you were standing up, and then as the camera moved, I could see these things in the back hanging on this uh, hanging on your back wall there. And it's like, I want to say they're clamps for like furniture, but they almost look like the kind of clamps you'd have on a workbench. And you had like a whole bunch of them. Do you know what I'm talking about? Let me see if I can.
So the JLT clamp rack.
I don't know. It's blue. Is that
Uh,
okay? Okay, tell us about that, because you have a whole bunch of those clamps, and those things got to be some heavy duty stuff. They'd be great for, I guess, clamping up furniture and stuff.
they are. So it is essentially it is a cantilevered clamp rack, and these clamps are individual, and they attach onto the frame so you can space them any way you want. It is called a JLT. So I think it's actually jamesltaylor.com or something like that. But they make industrial size clamps. Well, the woodworking shop that I worked for beforehand had this clamp rack, and they unfortunately went out of business for a few different reasons. But I was like, I'm going to buy that. So I bought it, brought it home, and it is so big that I can clamp up a 13-foot long by, it's pretty much 59 inches, is almost 5 feet. But a 5 foot long by 30 or 13 feet long table, I can clamp up, and that is like a single piece. And then it has levels, so you can create different things. So I did the calculation one day, and if I really wanted to, I could clamp up 60 cutting boards in a single day. It is incredible. It's one of those things that like you don't hear about because it's not hobby grade, but they're out there. You can look on Facebook and find them and stuff. They're very cool.
Yeah, and you have, I don't know how many of those there are, but I saw them all hanging on that blue thing back there, and I'm like, man, that's really cool. You could, because I always say you don't have enough clamps, and I'm like, this guy might have enough clamps. He's got a ton of them. But all right, I want to take just a quick break here, just for a second, and talk about next week's show. And I usually don't do this, but I want to talk about next week's show, and then we're going to get into taking the questions from the audience. But while we've got probably like midway through the show here is when we have our most viewers, so I want to take a minute to talk about this. I have had some people message me here lately. And when I started doing these hobby CNC with Dave shows, I've done lots of different live streams under different names and stuff, and each one has been kind of a different style or format type thing. But I've had some people message me here lately and go, "Hey, Dave, when are you going to do just a good old fashioned Q&A show?" So I thought about it after I had a few people ask me that, and I'm like, well, I was kind of thinking, I'd always try to have a guest or have a certain topic and stuff, but I think I might try doing just a good old fashioned Q&A show. But what I'd like to do is do it with a panel of guests. So in other words, with this StreamYard software, we can have a total, like right now you see 3 of us on here. We can have up to, I think it's still 10. I'm not sure. It might even be more than that. But anyway, so I'd like to, at this time, while there's a lot of folks watching out there, if you are a CNC person and would like to come on just as a panel guest, no pressure, but just come on and be able to field questions for a Q&A show, let me know, and we'll get you signed up, and we'll try that. Maybe we'll try that next week. I don't currently have a guest scheduled, so it might be a good time to run that by and see. But I've had, like I said, I had some people ask me, and I thought, well, maybe it's time to do another one of those. And I'd kind of like to do it the old, when I first started doing live streams, that's what I always did. I always had a panel of folks. So it wasn't just me fielding questions. It was anybody on the panel that wanted to take that. So there you go. We're going to get back to the questions here for Hamilton. And let's see. We've got one here from Nick Matney. He says, what do you do if you want to make something but don't have the skills to model it?
So is that for me?
Yeah, that's
So, Mr. Nick Manny, I contact you and you make the files for me. So it's funny because I saw that question before I saw the name, and I was sitting there and I was like, I bug people until they either do it for me or teach me how. Like, I am a huge proponent of if you don't know how to do something, somebody else knows how to do that, and you either pay them or annoy them enough where they will teach you or do it for you. So Nick, when I first started, I knew exactly what I wanted to make, and he modeled something incredible for me. And he's probably laughing right now watching this because he's thinking, Hamilton, you said you were going to do it in January, and it is now the end of March. And I haven't done it because I need one material that I've been cheaping out and not buying yet. But essentially, I didn't know how to create something. I had an idea in my mind and a picture of something similar. And on the forum for Onefinity, I was like, hey, anybody out there know what it might cost? Nick got in touch with me, and then he blew it out of the park because he's way better at that than me. And so out there, I know that as woodworkers, oftentimes, like when you're making something, you think that you should know how to do everything. There are some things that you just need to take the bow on and be like, somebody else knows how to do that way better than me. It's not worth the 100 hours that I'm about to dedicate to learning this skill just so that I can barely pass by. There's other people out there that, are more than happy to do it and can do it in literally 2 hours or an hour and just crush it way better than you ever will. So that's what I do. Either pay someone or bother them until they teach me.
Yeah, I like the bugging them till they till they, till they teach you. That's a good plan. I know myself. I've been using VCar Pro, and it'll do most everything I want it to do. But on occasion, there might be something where I need a spire. Well, I'm not going to buy because you're talking what, a $1,300 upgrade, and I probably wouldn't use that software that much because I haven't up till now. So if I ever need something that somebody's got a spire, I can, I'll usually try to farm that out and get something done. But for the most part, other than that, I will try to learn it myself if it's something I already have and can try to do. But and that's when I go do the YouTube university thing. So, all right, let's see. Next question. 3DHP says Hamilton cleaned up and not sitting in the sawdust.
Yes, 2 of my videos, I'm laying in a pile of sawdust. I'm glad that you caught that.
Yeah, I've seen that one. I've seen that one. Okay, Cody says, hey, Hamilton, I love the fact that you've worked with people battling addiction. Major kudos. Do you plan to help in other ways now that you have a CNC recovery and or ministry type stuff?
So I know that I'm a talker, so I'm going to try and make this as quickly as possible. Yes. My main goal with my YouTube channel is I'm hitting my goals right now as far as subscribers and growth. Eventually, I want to get to the point where I can use everybody here currently that is watching this, because y'all all have CNCs. You all have the time and ability to be able to create things because you either think it's fun or because you want to sell things to be able to gain money. My goal is that I can use those people as an army to be able to sell things and raise money for people in need, whether that is for children's hospitals or people battling addiction or anything in between. I've spent close to 5 years of my life in the nonprofit world. So I'm very attuned to people and what they need and a lot of other things out there. And I see this community right here is a massive resource of people that if I said, hey, Dave, here's a file, I'm going to provide the materials or whatever that might look like. If you create 30 of these things, I can, use those, and if 50 other people do that, then we can have 1,500 of these items and give them to kids in need, or like single mothers that might need this specific weird little thing that our CNC army can create. That's eventually where I want to get to. I'm not even remotely at the subscriber count that will require me to do something like that, but like my goal in life is not to be fat and rich. It is to give back as much as I possibly can. And I always want to try and do that along the way. And I would like to do way more than, it's incredible when people give 10% to charity and stuff, but I would like to do way more than that. So that's way future goals, and hopefully I can bug enough people to help me do it.
Okay. Good deal. All right, let's see. We got another question here from Alan. He says, Hamilton, how is your router on the Onefinity holding up? Are you still on your first one? Have you considered moving up to a Spindle?
So yes, I considered moving up to a Spindle when I first purchased it, and then every day since I've had it. The Makita is fine. I'm still on my first one. The brushes are the place where I'm going to be replacing literally next week, if you see my maintenance video. But the Makita router is, for the long carves that I do, the collet is its weakest place, and I hate it. I really just want something with an ER20 collet. I've searched, and if somebody has it, please send me the link. But like, if there is a way to upgrade the collet so that it actually grips in tighter, and it has little gaps in there where it just forces dust up in, like there's a lot of things wrong with it. So I think that's the weakest portion of the Makita, and I would love to be able to have an upgrade, but unfortunately it's not in the budget right now. And I don't know how to do that. So that would probably be me finding somebody in the community to go ahead and wire all that up. I'm scared to death of electrical stuff. So that would probably be my go-to whenever I do decide to upgrade.
Well, I think Mr. JR had a good video out just the other
2 weeks
day.
ago. Or something like that.
Where he was putting his spindle back on there and redoing that. So probably could get some tips there from him.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. You made me think of something I was going to ask, and of course, if I don't say it right away, I forget what it was. But I don't remember.
Well, I got one in the meantime while you're thinking.
It'll come back to me, I'm sure. Go ahead, Ryan.
So I saw that you like using the Jenny bits.
Mm-hmm.
Have you used other? We had Cody on a couple weeks ago, and have you had other like down cutting bits or comparable bits that along with the Jenny? And how'd you like it?
Yes. So when I first started, I went out and bought a ton of cheap bits off of eBay because I knew that I was going to break everything.
Way to go!
I, knock on wood, have not broken one. I've chipped one of the like very ends of a white side bit. So like I first started off with the cheapo bits, and then I moved up to white side. And then I moved to Amana because I started doing more repetitive stuff, and I just want to know how long a bit can actually last. And as I started pouring money into the Amana pot, I started looking around and saw the Jenny bits, and it was something where I was like, I don't understand this. This seems like something that someone's doing. So I just went ahead and reached out to him. Cody and I talked on the phone for quite a while. He's an incredible dude with an obvious skill set that I will never be able to attain. And he was just throwing out all this incredible, awesome stuff that went completely over my head. And throughout our conversation, I was just like, hey, if it's better, I would love to be able to show people that. If it's similar, I think that that's incredible because people in the community really want to, they would rather give you their money than Amazon their money. And I think that he's created something really well, but it worked better for my use case, but it did work better for me. So I'm going to be using his bits as long as I can.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait until the V bit comes out.
I know.
Yeah.
3D HP says the Pro's now 12, otherwise 10, free is 6. And he's talking about the number of guests or total number
Panels.
of slots you can have. So I would have 12. I was thinking, see, I knew that I used to have 10 when I was on the basic plan, but I'm on the pro plan now, so I could have 12. So with me and Ryan taking up 2 of those, that means we could have 10 other folks as panel guests to come on and share all their wonderful CNC knowledge. So that's thanks for letting me know that 3D HP. I thought it might be more than 10, but I wasn't sure. Let's see here. I'm looking through. I want to give a shout out to Cody too. He's hit me up with a super chat. I appreciate it, Cody. You guys are pretty awesome. And he also has some fantastic bits. I got to tell you, I used the. He sent me 2 of them, a downtown Jenny and I guess just the regular Jenny. And I used let's see, which one was it? The downtown Jenny I guess I used it the other day, and it was baby butt smooth on the finish there. So really, really nice bits. And I'll be talking about those some more in a video whenever I get my project straightened out. So let's see. Roger the Tinker says, if Hamilton go to a Spindle, I would suggest the 2.2K with water cooling.
But isn't the water cooling something that is just another little aspect that could break?
Well, I have one of each. I have a 2.2 kilowatt water cooled, and I also have a 2.2 kilowatt air cooled. And if you want to do a lot of different materials, like maybe start getting into aluminum or something like that, then you might want to go with a water cooled, simply because you can slow the RPM down much slower with a water cooled because it stays cool, because the water is going through it. But with an air cooled, the minimum, at least the one I have, they say the minimum RPM has to be 8,000, which might still be a little fast if you're trying to do different materials. But it's because, it's like a router. It uses the air to keep it cooled. But my experience has been with the water cooled versus the air cooled. The air cooled makes a little bit more noise than the water cooled, because the water cooled is really quiet. The air cooled sounds a little bit more like a router, but yet it's quieter than a router. But all bets are off when it hits the wood. They all make noise when they're cutting. So, my dust collector is the noisiest thing then. So it's kind of a wash between the water cooled and.
So, and that's even louder than like when you're doing profile cuts, because I have to walk out of my shop when I'm profiling.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty loud, regardless. Even with the water cooled, because now if you're doing a 3D carve and you're doing a finishing pass where it's going back and forth and it's only taking a few, that's not going to be loud at all.
Oh, nice.
But
is it antifreeze that's actually cooling it? Because my shop isn't temperature controlled.
Well, yeah, if it's like mine's out in my garage and it's not temperature controlled either. So if it's, I have a 5-gallon bucket. I don't have a self-contained system like some folks have, but mine is just a 5-gallon bucket with a lid on it, and then it has the kit. The Spindle kit I bought had a like a little aquarium motor, and that's what pumps the water. But if I was going to get another one, I would go with an air cooled, simply because for me the noise isn't that much louder, and not having to fool with the water and worrying about it clogging up. And I don't care what kind of system you have, it's dusty and it's going to get clogged. Half the time when I'm looking at my little I have one of those little flow meters with the thing that spins. Half time when I'm running mine, that thing's not spinning. I have to take the hose and shake it, and then it'll spin for a minute, and then it'll stop, and I'm like, all right, but I just take my hand and feel the thing, and it's never gotten really more than just warm.
Yeah.
So I think you could probably run them without the water flow for a pretty long time, because the mount is aluminum. My plate that I have it mounted on that's aluminum. So all that acts as a heat sink anyway. So
Yeah.
I think you have to really run them a long, long time to burn one of those up. Okay. Let's see.
Rob
we got
says,
some more.
Okay. Rob says he runs RV antifreeze in his.
Okay.
He's in Arizona.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I bought it for mine too. It just mixed a little in that 5-gallon bucket of water, and a lot of people say to use distilled water too, but I haven't done that. I just used my tap water. Let's see. We got another question here. 3D HP
this is
says,
what I want to know.
is that fake turf on the wall behind you?
Yeah, kind of. So it's like it's fake like boxwood bush. So they come in squares, and somebody was throwing out like literally the exact amount that I needed for my wall. So they're kind of just stapled to the wall. When we purchased the house a year or two ago, or whatever it was, this wall is orange. You might be able to see it now that you know that it's orange through the leaves, but it's obnoxious and very bright. So I just kind of stapled those up instead of even painting. It was extremely low effort, but it looks fine.
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay. Yeah, I really wasn't paying that much attention. I mean, I knew it wasn't a green screen, but I wasn't really paying that much attention to it.
And it's funny too, because I have to have like a little cutout for it, because the cutoff for the water in my shop is down here in the basement in my office. So there's a literal water nozzle or knob that's in the wall that I can turn off the water in my shop. So it's hidden in the bush right now.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions for Hamilton, or me, or Ryan, or anybody? I know Ryan. I think you were getting some questions about your building.
Oh yeah. That's not important though.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3DHP. He was asking. Well, he was mentioning that he uses distilled water in his K40, and I do too. But I think it's more important for lasers to use the distilled water than it is for.
Yeah, even the commercial lasers.
Yeah,
they use that because we used to get a pallet of distilled water in gallon things, and the guy would have to fill up the thing on them.
Oof.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Here's Organized Nashville. Come organize your wood shop.
Well, hello there. So this is my sister-in-law.
Okay.
No, because you'll go in and throw away all of my cutoffs, and everything's exactly where I know where it is. If you've seen any of the background shots in my videos, it is a chaotic monster of a mess, and I know where everything is.
Exactly.
But thank you.
Yeah.
You
know, a lot of folks, when you're watching videos, the shops are always, just super clean and all. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're a neat freak, more power to you. But I got to tell you, I love watching the video, and I'm not, this isn't coming as a dig on you, Hamilton, but like when I watched some of your videos and I thought, man, that he's competing with me as how messy I am. But that's what I like, it's obvious you do a lot of work in that shop, and that's the way, to me, that's the way a shop should look. But what do I know?
look for organization stuff probably once every 2 weeks on Facebook Marketplace, just to see if I can get some huge industrial shelving or something like that. And every single time I'm like, I don't want to pay for it. It'll be fine for another year, and it will be.
Yeah. My problem is, unlike you, I probably don't know where everything is. I think I do. And then when I go to look for it and can't find it, I end up buying another one. Roger says, disorganized shop is an organized mind.
I like
I'll
that.
tell my
I'll
wife
use it.
that one. Yeah.
we'll go with that. All right. Anybody else have any questions? Get them in here now, and 'cause we're already over the
Alan
hour.
Hefferman had a comment about the differences between the air cooled and water cooled.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, we're both in at the same time.
Yeah, we're both playing tag here. Air-cooled spindle is certainly cheapest, as Dave points out. The big plus for water-cooled is cutting. Yeah, that's the, to me, that's the big difference is with the water-cooled. You can get, I can turn mine on, and if I want to set it for 30 RPM, I could do it. I mean, there's no, whatever it takes to get it moving, you can pretty much set it at. But the air-cooled, and my software is, I guess they built it in there, but they have it where if you tried to turn it all, like if you had it set at, say, 9,000, and then you hit the button to reduce the thing, it only will let it go down to 8,000. You can't lower it any more than 8. And that's by design, so you won't burn it up. But again, even the air-cooled one has that big square block, of aluminum that it's in. So it really, a lot of the runs I do are at least an hour or pretty close to an hour. And when it gets done, you can put your hand on it and it's barely warm. So they both work great. It's just a matter of preference, I guess, and what you're going to be cutting. All right. Anybody else have any questions? If not, we'll wrap it up here. Let me look through my list over here. I think we got pretty much all of the ones I had. What well, you mentioned, at some point like to have multiple CNCs. Is that just to expand? And I think you touched on this a little bit, like where you'd have where you could reduce setups because you just dedicate one machine to running a certain type of product, and then have something else set up. That would be ideal, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely the goal. Is just to hopefully spit out as much product as possible. So hopefully I would be able to have 2 more machines. That's at least what I can see in my mind. We'll see if we get there.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. Well, I hope you. Go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, I was going to ask you about your Etsy shop. So I was looking at that, and I see you got a little bit there. How long have you been selling your stuff on Etsy?
January, I think. That's when I opened it up.
Nice.
And I've had an Etsy shop for a very long time. And if you look into my past purchases or whatever sales, you can see products that aren't on there anymore. Cause at first I opened it up as a candle shop. I was selling Hamiltons, and I thought it was very funny with wooden wicks and everything. And then I got bored of that, and then I went on to something else, and then I got bored of that. So it's been opened up and shut down very many times, but CNC purpose related, January.
Nice. Very good.
Okay. What, I don't want you to give away any of your trade secrets or anything, but what is your most popular item that you make to sell now? I mean, I've seen the little round bottle opener things. Those, I mean, obviously they must be pretty good because you were trying to make a bunch of them. So
funny enough, and anybody watching this will get a kick out of it. But my first torture test video that I did, it ended up, it's around 35,000 views or something. And I made these little ring dishes. I sold one out of the 112 that I made. And that was incredibly discouraging, but I was like, okay, why am I doing this? Well, the video itself has made me a few $100s. So after seeing that, I was like, oh, I need to focus more on the things that people want to watch on YouTube. Instead of sitting here and figuring out how I can turn around and create as much product and get in as many stores as possible, which I'm still definitely doing because it's really nice to get a check at the end of the month of somebody being like, hey, you sold this many or whatever in some shop, where I'm not doing any of the selling. I'm just putting it on a shelf. But after I noticed that, I thought, okay, what are some more interesting ways that I can just make videos that people want to watch? They see somebody like me who, if you're watching me, you can think, oh, at least I know more than that guy and I'm doing better than him. So like people enjoy that aspect of it as well, but they also like the honesty of mistakes. So like with the Etsy place and selling stuff, like one of my best sellers is the topo tray. So it's made out of walnut, but I knew that I wanted to market that directly to the EDC community. So everyday carry, the people that are out there spending money specifically on knives and guns. Those are the people that have a ton of disposable income that are more than happy to purchase something to show off their things that they're purchasing. So a little tray for those. And I sent it to one YouTuber, and he made one post on Instagram and barely even mentioned it, and then just a flood of sales came in. So like if you're out there and you're trying to find a product that's going to do really well for you, first figure out who you're going to sell it to, how much it's going to ship, price it accordingly, double that price, and then find out somebody that already has a very large audience in that area and just send it to them. And if it's unique enough and cool enough, people will automatically gravitate towards it.
Good deal.
So,
yeah, go ahead, Brian.
I got another question, but this is going back to the bottle opener video because it's the newest one out. I saw you did some of them with India ink, and it looks like you put them into a bucket, and the bucket is like bubbling or something. What was going on there? Because I've not seen. I've never stained with India ink or anything like that before. So I was like, what?
I'm so sorry about all my long-winded answers, but I like to give as much information as possible. Great. So I shot like maybe close to 30 minutes worth of footage of me explaining all of that and why it's all frothy and stuff. And when I'm doing the edit, I'm like, oh, it doesn't make any sense. It's not flowing well. I just tear it out. So with the India ink, I couldn't find a place to buy it in gallon forms. So I was having to buy it in pint forms. So like I purchased a ton of them from Speedball. And then I just poured them all into the bottom of the gallon bucket, but I had a gallon of it because at first I wanted to make white ash topo trays, and then I wanted to dye them black because it's more like a tactical version of that, and that's the people that I was making this product for. Unfortunately, it sinks in, and then my topo trays were bending, so they were bowing like crazy. And even with the little cork feet that I put on the bottom, they just weren't sitting straight. So I scrapped it, put the lid on it, put it underneath. So when I made these bottle openers, I thought, oh, I should use some of that India ink because it's just sitting there doing nothing. Unfortunately, it like coagulates a lot. So it gets all lumpy and really muddy. And then that mud, once it gets on the product, sits there and it's horrible. So I went in with a paint stirrer and I stirred it up, and then it just frothed like crazy. And it takes like 2 days for that froth to settle down because it's a very viscous mixture, but at the same time, like it just takes forever. So yeah. That's why it was so frothy, and it did mess up the finish on half of those black ones that I did not show.
Okay. Alan's got another question for you here. He says, Hamilton, what video editing software do you use to edit your videos?
That is DaVinci Resolve. I'm 100% self-taught. I do not believe in the Adobe suite of products and the subscriptions associated with them. I will stand on that hill and die on it. So DaVinci Resolve is free, and the only thing that you have to pay for is if you want to use 10-bit footage. So I've got a Fujifilm X-T4, which is right here, and it shoots in 10-bit, and that is the only reason why I actually purchased it, and it is very cheap even at that. So like it is professional cinema grade quality. You only buy it once, you get updates forever. Way better, and it does take some learning, but it's incredible software. Make sure you have a computer that'll run it, though. That's a big point.
Yeah, I was going to comment that your videos are not only good as far as the content and the humor. I love the humor aspect you throw in there too. But the quality of the video is excellent. So I guess that's probably why Alan was asking about the editing software you use.
So if you want to watch one of my older videos, I've got a channel that's still out there. I think it's just called Hambone. Or you can search Quincy compressor restoration. And it is horrible, and I don't show my face, and it's potato quality footage, and then all the comments are so mean. So if you want a laugh tonight, you can go in there and read all the comments of all these old men who are angry at me for doing what I did. And it's such a bad video, but I've got multiple channels out there and multiple videos that somehow I will never tell anybody because I'm so ashamed of them, but I like to look back on them every once in a while and see where I came from.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to go check that out. Mark Lindsay also says, call the ring dish a pick dish. Guitarists love their pick dishes.
That is a great idea.
And if you have any music shops or instrument, there's some musical instruments and shops up there in Cumming, you might, and because I know you like the little small stuff on the CNC, but you can make, and I've made some, but I just made them for personal use. But it's just a little tray, like a pick tray, but they're in the shape of different style guitars, like a Strat and Gibson and stuff like that. So
that is a very good idea. And Mark, in like 3 weeks, when you see the video of me making 200 guitar pick dishes, I'm going to fully take that idea and say that I made it up myself, and I've never heard anybody else say that. So thank you.
Okay. All righty. Well, we've been at it here about an hour and 20 almost. So if anybody's got any other final questions, get them in quick. Otherwise, I'm going to be ready to hit the little magic button here and get us signed off. Also, before we go, remember, if you want to get in on the panel discussion, we'll call it, or roundtable, whatever kind of name you want to use for next week thing, let me know. Like I said, you don't necessarily have to be an expert, because I see, here I go getting on my soapbox again. But I see a lot of times in these Facebook groups where they'll say so-and-so is the group expert and stuff. And I'm like, oh, so that guy has every single CNC known to man. He's run them all. He knows everything about. I don't think there's anything as a CNC expert. I'm sorry. I've been doing this stuff a long time, and I am not an expert. I know a lot about what I do because I've done it a long time, but I don't think there's any expert out there. But if you want to come join the panel next week, again, no experts needed. Just in fact, you can be a newbie because you can come on and you know the right questions to ask the rest of us. So anyway, I guess we're going to get out of here. Hamilton, thank you so much for agreeing to come on tonight. I've enjoyed hearing your story, and best of luck to you, man. Continued success with the YouTube channel and
Thank you.
The woodworking thing. And can't wait. I'm going to have to come up there anyway since you're close, because I'd like to get a firsthand look at one of these Onefinities. All I've watched is YouTube videos, and you're probably, as far as I know, the closest one to me. There might be another one around here, but you're the only one I know of so far. So
it's funny because once I put in my PO box, a few people have gotten in touch with me and be like, "Hey, I'm literally in Cumming, right down the road from you," and like 2 other people have been like, "I'm in Canton," and I forget where the last person was, but it's funny like how many people just like come out of the woodworks right when they know where you're at.
Yeah, well, I know. I don't know if you know Zach Manring from Southern Ginger Wood Shop or Southern
We've
Ginger
been
Workshop.
following each other on Instagram for like a few years now. Yeah.
Yeah, he lives up your way somewhere. It's either Canton or what is it? Carter's.
I think it's Cartersville.
Cartersville, I think. It's somewhere up there.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, and he's a CNC dude, or kind of, sort of. He's got an Axiom, I think. So. All right. Well, we're going to get out of here. Thank you again, Hamilton. Thank you, Ryan, for catching the comments for me and stuff. And we will see you all next week. And hopefully some of y'all will be joining us next week when we do the the little Q&A thing. So everybody have a great weekend, and we will see you all next week.
Thanks. Bye.